What's going on, guys? It's Red Bull Tanker, and welcome back to Historical Board Gaming's The Korean War. This is turn 4, and we've had quite the turn, so let's go. Alright, as always, we start off with the North Koreans. They had 42 to spend. They spent 8 to repair the damage to the Seoul factory that was done by the UN bomber last turn. And then they bought 4 infantry, 4 artillery, and a tank. Combat, they did one thing of combat. They took this artillery from Seoul and took Kanung for 2 IPC, which has now dropped the South Koreans down 2 more IPC, unfortunately. And then on their non-combat, they consolidated more of their forces, and they took tanks from 38th East, brought them down to Seoul, and then brought this group from Yanggu here into 38 West, and then moved these 2 fighters from Incheon into Seoul. And then at the end of the turn, they deployed all their forces in Seoul and collected 40 IPC. Going up to China. China had 10 IPC to spend. They bought another fighter. The Airsoft Commando is very much building up the Chinese Air Force, and deployed the fighter here, and that was it, since China can't attack, but he doesn't really have any non-combats for the Chinese right now. And at the end of the turn, China collected 10 IPC. Dropping down to the South Koreans. The South Koreans had 20 IPC to spend. They bought 5 infantry, a mech, and 1 supply. They did not conduct any combat this turn, even though I wanted to, but I forgot that they did not. The artillery here in Choan didn't have a supply, so they weren't able to spend a supply to do an artillery barrage into Incheon. So there was no South Korean combat this turn. South Korea just continued to move its forces. They're reinforcing their forces here in Choan. And then they moved their 6th infantry out of Busan into Pohang, and just trying to get more of their army north. And then they deployed the 5 infantry and the supply here in Busan, because for infantry and supply, you can, for South Korea, when you buy infantry and supply, they can come right onto the map. They don't have to wait on the build. They don't have to wait on the build pad. And then also coming into Busan were the 2 artillery that South Korea bought last turn, and then they placed their mech here on the build queue. And then at the end of the turn, the South Koreans collected 18 IPC. All right, to the United States, they had 50 IPC to spend. The U.S. spent it all. They bought 3 infantry that we are flagging as the 7th Infantry Division. They bought 2 mechanized infantry, 1 tank, 1 fighter, a transport, and 10 supplies. The U.S. did not. The U.S. was not able to conduct any combat this turn. Same with what happened with the South Koreans in Choan. The 24th Infantry's artillery here in Osan did not have any supplies to use, so they were not able to fire into Seoul like I had wanted to. And then on the non-combat, the United States deciding that we need to strengthen our position. The U.S., the 24th Infantry Division, the bulk of it fell back to Sangju, leaving behind one of their regiments as a rear guard. The 1st Cavalry moved up from Wigwang into Sangju. The 25th Infantry Division pulled back from Wanzhou into Andong. The 1st Marine Division moved up to Pohang with its artillery. The tank that was attached to the 1st Marine Division detached itself, came up here to Andong, and attached itself with the 25th Infantry Division along with 2 fighters. And then at Pusan, the U.S. landed the 2nd Infantry Division, a tank, their new strategic bomber, and their tactical bomber. And then at the end of the turn, they collected 50. The United Nations. All right, the United Nations had 22 to spend. They bought 3 infantry, a mech, a tank, and 5 supplies. They had 1 combat. They took their strategic bomber from Weiguang, attempted a strategic bombing raid against Seoul. However, the AAA from the factory scored a hit. I think secretly, Airsoft Commando transferred the AAA gunners from the Pyongyang factory and brought them down to the Seoul factory. So that is now another strategic bomber that Airsoft Commando can chalk up to killing, much to my dismay, because now I have to figure out how I'm going to get the Allied Air Forces back up to strength, at least on the strategic bombing side. So that was great. That was great. Non-combats. The UN continues to reinforce Choan with ground forces. They took their infantry and tank from the build queue, landed it here in Gwangju, and I think that was it for the UN. So then at the end of the turn, the UN collected 20 IPC. Alright, coming over. Alright, currently the UN now holds 15 territory, or the Allies now have 15 territories to the North Koreans 22, if I might be mistaken. Hold on, wait. 18, 19, 20, 21, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yes, 22 to 15. And then over on the IPC counter, as always, China with 10, South Korea is now at 18, the UN at 20, North Korea at 40, and the United States at 50. And I forgot once again, why is that crooked? Turn 4 covers the months of December 1950 and January 1951. So now we will be moving into turn 5 for February and March 1951. All right, well, I think that is it for turn 4, and we will see you guys again next time for turn 5. So until then, guys, as always, take care.